What up, though, y'all? It's your boy Shane G. We are back once again with another episode of Politics as Usual right here on the Ethos Media Network. Today, I just want to get into a little bit, because obviously most of us have lived through mad wars. You know what I mean? We've lived through the Iraq War. I'm 35, so we've lived through the Iraq War. We've lived through the Afghanistan War. We've lived through all these different military operations and things like that have been going on all over the world. Um, so what I want to do right now is, because it seems like most of the time people know that war isn't, like, at least for the last 10 years, I would say everybody was on this anti-war kick. Everybody was like, yo, we need to get the troops out. We need to get them back home. You know what I'm saying? Bin Laden's dead. Saddam's dead. We murked all our enemies. Why are we still over there type shit, right? So now, though, we're all involved. And if you look on Twitter, if you look on Facebook and stuff, you're going to see a bunch of people with Ukrainian flags and all of that. Now, obviously, well wishes to the people, the citizens of Ukraine. We never blame the citizens for what the government's doing. But with that said, there's a lot of slanting in the media that's happening, and they're trying to make it seem like this whole thing happened purely because Vladimir Putin is a psychopath and he just wants world domination, and there's nothing more to it. What I'm here to do today is to just give a little bit more context to what's going on, and maybe you'll see that the United States, again, aren't the good guys. So let's get into it. I hope y'all are having a good week. This is Politics as Usual. Let's get right into it. So, from Scoop, how the Western press, the West being, the UK, Israel, I believe they consider part of the West. Obviously, the United States, Canada, all of that stuff. Basically, all of the modernized English-speaking countries is considered the West. So, how the Western press lied about the 2014 coup in Ukraine, pretending that it was instead a real democratic revolution. So basically what that's saying is, we led a coup, which is, for those of you who don't know what a coup is when you overthrow somebody's government. So let's say the United States elected Joe Biden for president, and then China doesn't like Joe Biden. So they come in, they do a bunch of stuff that, either threatens Joe Biden, his family, you know what I'm saying? Like everything he has going, basically, to either force him out or kill him. And then they install their own leader. Essentially, that's what a coup is. So just so that everybody, knows what the language is, you know what I mean? So U.S. and allied governments, aka the West, or the EU, or NATO, all of those things very much work together. So just keep that in mind. The U.S. and allied governments and their billionaire-controlled press are unrelenting in their fraudulent portrayal of what was actually the U.S. regime's conquest and destruction of Ukraine in 2014 by means of a brutal coup, which caused a civil war. Now, let's get into it. Let's get into the details of that. The first documentation concerns the coup itself, which occurred in February 2014, though the narrator in the video mistakenly says at 27 seconds that the coup started on February 20th of 2013 instead of February 20th of 2014, which is the only slip up in this entire otherwise superb presentation. The video is here. You can click the link. It's part of that article. And it demonstrates, it even displays that the U.S. government under President Barack Obama lied through their teeth about that coup as having been a revolution, quote unquote, instead of a coup. The key leaked phone call that's exerted in this video can be heard in full at the link there. And its full transcript, including explanations of the persons who are being referred to in it, is also available on the website. The broader historical significance of that phone call is reported and explained again on the website. To sum it all up, though, this is the meat and potatoes of everything that you're going to find if you click those links. There is no way that this phone conversation, which is between two Obama administration officials who are discussing whom to appoint to lead Ukraine when the coup will have been completed, can reasonably be interpreted in any other way than that the Barack Obama administration had carefully planned and executed a coup d'etat is also what that's known as, which replaced Ukrainians' democratically elected government by one that was controlled by the U.S. regime. So again, what that means is in 2014, they had a president. Ukraine liked their president. We didn't like their president. We didn't like their president because we thought that their president was too cool with Russia. So in 2014, which I'm going to get into the details of how this happened in a little bit, we basically started this coup d'etat in Ukraine, got rid of their leader, put in our own guy, and they've basically been beefing ever since as far as Russia and Ukraine is concerned. They've been going at it really hard ever since then. So that was us. We did that. Continuing on. So how did the revolution come about? Now here's how it happened, and also the Western lies that hide this reality. On November 30th of 2013, UK's Economist magazine bannered "Stealing Their Dream." Viktor Yanukovych is hijacking Ukrainians' European future. And he wrote that they're going to launch economic reforms, cut spending, or tame the appetites of his cronies. Mr. Yanukovych, Ukraine's democratically elected and, for the Ukrainian people, remarkably successful president, as will subsequently be documented here, proceeded to trade the country's most valuable asset, Ukraine's geopolitical position. The talks with the EU were an auction. Again, that's the European Union. It was a position of a pimp who was offering Ukraine up for sale, says Mr. Poroshenko, a political enemy of Yanukovych, who became Ukraine's president after the coup. So that's the guy we put in, Poroshenko. That's the guy we put in. We replaced Yanukovych with Poroshenko, who was his enemy, by the way. So that would be like if you remove Joe Biden from office and then put Donald Trump in his place with no election. That's how that would be. Moving on. The talks with the EU were an auction. It was a position of a pimp who was offering Ukraine up for sale, says Mr. Poroshenko, a political enemy of Yanukovych, who became Ukraine's president after the coup. Mr. Yanukovych let it be known that if Europe wanted a modern, democratic Ukraine, it needed to pay his price of $160 billion by 2017. European politicians were aghast at such blatant blackmail. Mr. Putin seemed happy to haggle. It is not clear what he and Mr. Yanukovych agreed during their secret meeting in early November. The deal is said to include cheaper gas, credits, and lucrative business contracts, but not, it is rumored in Kiev, a requirement that Ukraine join a proposed new customs union with Russia. Whatever the understanding, it has persuaded Mr. Yanukovych to distance himself from the EU. So basically what they're thinking there is, did Vladimir Putin offer him something that would be like, yo, maybe you don't join the EU, maybe we start our own shit, you know what I mean? And in exchange, I'm going to give you the hook up on business contracts, on energy, things like that. The life-saving memorandum may yet to be signed with the EU, but the collapse of the association agreement could be a blessing in disguise for the Europeans. Teaming up with Mr. Yanukovych, who would have never implemented it, would have only led to disappointment and recriminations while helping Mr. Yanukovych get reelected. Instead, the collapse brought pressure from Mr. Yanukovych from educated middle-class Ukrainians who feel that their future has been hijacked and their dreams stolen. Haunted by the memories of 2004, Mr. Yanukovych may try not to crack down, but time is against him. Or he may try to crack down, but time is against him. On November 24th, tens of thousands of Ukrainians went to the streets in support of Ukraine's European course. The coup happened in February 2014, and the breakaway of Crimea from Ukraine happened in March 2014. Now, Crimea is a territory within Ukraine. And the civil war that erupted in Ukraine's far eastern Donbass region, which, mind you, 90% of them voted for Yanukovych, That started on May 9th of 2014. Now, the reason why that's important, right? 90% of them voted for Yanukovych. Again, he was cool with Russia. Now, what we need to remember is that the people in Crimea, specifically the Donbass region, I'm not sure about Crimea as a whole, but I know the Donbass region, the majority of those people are ethnically Russian. They don't identify as Ukrainian, they identify as Russian. They also speak Russian still. They follow Russian traditions and customs and things of that nature within their region. Now, imagine Southern California, Vegas, Arizona, Texas, places like that, right? Imagine that everybody in those regions spoke Spanish, which that's why I named those regions, because, you know, the majority of people do. So imagine if they were cool with the Mexican president and they were like, yo, we like what he's doing for our people in Mexico. You know what I'm saying? They seem to be happy with him, and we're all good. And then the United States, just because for our own business purposes, even though all the Mexican people are happy, we go and remove their leader and then put in somebody that we want in charge instead. How do you think people will react to that? They're not going to react positively to that, right? Moving on. The coup happened in February 2014, and the breakaway of Crimea from Ukraine happened in March 2014. In the civil war that erupted in Ukraine's far eastern Donbass region, which had voted 90% for Yanukovych, once again, started on May 9th, 2014. Regarding the second question, there was two questions that was posed in the article. How did they destroy the country? One way was economically, and then this is the second way. Regarding the second question, destroyed the country. This is what Obama's Ukrainian coup did to Ukraine's people. On March 23rd, 2017, Gallup headlined South Sudan, Haiti, and Ukraine lead world in suffering. What more needs to be said about that? So this is really just a brief overview. Obviously, it's very detailed, and we'll get into, you know, more details in later videos as far as specifically, you know, why we have this attitude we have towards Russia. Obviously, a lot of that comes from World War II and the Cold War and things like that. But it's really funny to me when Obama is debating against Mitt Romney, and the moderator asked Mitt Romney, what's the biggest geopolitical threat to the United States? And he says Russia. The audience starts laughing. Barack Obama says the 1980s called and they want their foreign policy back. So even he, when he was running for president, was like, Russia's not really a big threat like that. Like that's some, like they're all right. There's mad pictures of George Bush and the Bush family hanging out with Vladimir Putin. So really, and we're going to deep dive on this too, but obviously the U.S. We're built on a war economy, so we make a lot of money, and by we I don't mean the citizens of the country. I mean, you know, the elites, the people who are invested in these things. You know, they stand to make a lot of money whenever we go to war. A lot of weapons get sold. You know, there's a lot of stuff happening, so a lot of money being spent. So it seems like, you know, when you're campaigning, obviously you say the right thing, but then once you're in office, then you gotta fall in line, right? So a lot of this has to do with the fact that they didn't want Trump to be president, so they tried to make the whole he's Putin's puppet thing stick. That didn't really work. It did in a sense because people still don't like Russia. I don't think anybody was thinking about Russia really at all until Trump got elected and the media married them together. So now that everyone hates Trump and you have this idea that Trump and Russia are linked together, now any negative action that the United States takes against Russia, the people are pretty much going to roll with, because we're already thinking, well, Russia's evil. They're Trumpian. You get what I'm saying? So it's really a slick game that they're playing. It's really slick. It's very clever, but the consequences are horrible. So, if you want the people of Ukraine to not suffer, to be safe and things like that, we have to check ourselves. If we keep giving them money, if we keep giving them, resources and all this stuff to basically just perpetuate this war that Russia's gonna win, they're gonna win. And if Russia doesn't win, or if the only way Russia doesn't win is if the United States comes in with force and assists Ukraine. If that happens, we're really close to nuclear war. Why would we want to start a hot war with another nuclear power? Negotiation is always an option. When it comes to countries, when it comes to world leaders, when it comes to shit like that, negotiation 100% of the time is an option. 100%. I don't care what happened. I don't care what happened. I don't care how many attacks have happened, how many leaders got killed. I don't care about none of that. Because when two countries want to sit down and say, okay, enough bloodshed, let's figure this out. That's what works. I was just watching a interview yesterday of a gentleman who was in the United States Marine Corps. And he was stating the reason that we were able to get out of the situation that we were in the 80s with Russia as far as the Cold War. And he was like, we were on the brink of a hot war. They were sending troops over to Europe ready to go. He said the only reason that got handled was because of negotiations and peace talks. I don't understand why war always has to be the first option. I guess that's my thing. So, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Let me know if I got anything wrong here. I am pretty sure I didn't get anything wrong. Because even if you read a lot of mainstream outlets that cover this and try to slant it as if it were just a democratic revolution, when you dig deep enough, even in those articles, if you get to paragraph 7, paragraph 8, things like that, eventually the real is in there, and it'll say, although we did do X, Y, and Z, which may have led to this. You know what I mean? Like, they'll throw enough truth in there to not completely be able to be written off, but they'll just slant it and skew it in such a way to where you think, they're framing it in a way that they want you to think about it. But when you really deep dive into the article, they always end up telling you the truth. Just like with every Trump article that I read, where everyone, the headline was Putin and Trump are butt lovers. Every article was that. And then whenever you would get that was every headline. And then whenever you get into the article, there would always 100% of the time be a sentence in paragraph 6, 7, or 8 or something like that that would read something to the effect of, although there is no evidence to suggest blah, 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 or although we have not yet been able to prove blah, 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 or, these are technically just rumors because there's no, you know what I'm saying? Like, they would always throw just a slight enough caveat in there to where if you're reading an 8-paragraph article, the majority of it is going to be Putin, Trump, Putin, Trump, Putin, Trump. But then you'll get that one sentence that's like, not for real. But then the rest of it is skewing you that way. So that one sentence isn't going to make a difference for the rest of the article if you're not really paying attention. But if you're really tapped in, you're going to notice all that little shit. You're going to be like, wait a minute, why'd they say it like that? Instead of just flat out saying he has tapes on him. Why is it all this, third-party source reports to such and such who told this person that there may possibly be a tape that Putin had, like, and people were holding on to that. And my whole thing was, there's real shit to be going at him for. Those tax breaks, horrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's mad different shit that we could go after him for. We could go after his bad business practices, to which he said he was going to bring to America. Bro, you bankrupted your company 6 times. You're a horrible businessman. We don't want you running the company or the country like a business. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's mad shit to actually go after him for. Him being war hawkish when it came to Russia, for example. Like, believe it or not, he wasn't that cool with Russia. Every policy that he did harmed Russia. Every single one. So all I'm saying is, when you really deep dive and when you really look into it, the media be lying. And I'm here to give y'all at least my version of what I see as reality. I'm not going to say I'm going to tell you the truth because I might miss some things and I have a bias. And I'm not going to lie about that. You know what I mean? There's no reason to lie about that. I want to be very honest with y'all where I'm coming from. But I just want you to know why my bias is what it is and how I developed the way I think about all of this stuff. So, but with all that being said, this is Shane G. This is Politics as Usual right here on the Ethos Media Network. Make sure you like, you share, and you subscribe. And we will catch you on next week. And we'll see what's happening in the news. But until then, y'all have a good one. Peace.